All right, welcome back to the deep dive. I want to kick things off today with, with a kind of an odd question. It's about how you see yourself. You know, when you catch your reflection, what are you actually seeing? Is it just a body, a brain in a meat suit?
Or is it something else?
Yeah, or is it what this text we're looking at calls a vertical data bus, connecting, your biology to the stars?
That's a huge opener. And I think if we're being honest, most of us, like 99% of the time, we go with the meat suit option.
Right. We feel contained.
Totally.
Yeah.
Finite. But that phrase, vertical data bus, it completely changes the geometry of what it means to be human.
It really does. And it's the core metaphor of the text we're getting into today. It's from excerpts from Aurelio, Architects of the Blue Crystal Sovereign Axes, specifically a part called the Madhyama Briefing.
And that title alone, it sounds like something co-written by a Silicon Valley coder and, an ancient mystic.
Yes. That is the perfect way to describe it. The whole text has this vibe. It's a collision. You've got these really hard technical terms, hard drives, software updates, source code, and then bam, in the same breath.
Alchemical epigenetics. Serpents. Crystals.
It's like cyberpunk meets the Bhagavad Gita or something. But we're not just here for the aesthetic, are we?
No, absolutely not. Under all that style, there's a really serious, almost aggressive argument being made about human agency.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive then.
I think so. To unpack this framework, because the author is basically arguing that we've all been demoted.
Demoted. I don't like the sound of that.
From being architects of our reality down to just being batteries.
Yeah.
And this text, it claims to have the blueprint or maybe the source code for how to get that sovereignty back.
Okay, let's get into it. I don't want to be a battery, but before the how, we have to do the what. This vertical data bus. Can you walk us through that? When I hear bus, I think of, public transport.
Right, yeah. No, think of it in computer terms. It's a system that moves data between components. The text wants us to see a human not as a sealed-off box, but as a conduit.
An axis.
An axis, exactly. Yes. Connecting 3 different layers of reality vertically from the ground up.
Okay, let's build it floor by floor. So layer 1, the ground floor. The text calls it the Biosphere, or Kunda.
Correct. And normally Biosphere makes you think of, forests and oceans, the world out there.
Right.
But here, it's our internal world, specifically our DNA. But, and this is the key, it's not just a chemical blueprint.
No, this was the line that jumped out at me. It calls DNA a living hard drive.
Yes, a living hard drive. And think what that implies. It contains every ancestral adaptation and every single ancestral trauma.
Wow. So my biology isn't just mine. It's a storage device.
It's a storage device holding the data of everything your lineage survived.
Mm-hmm.
Famines, wars, plagues, triumphs too. It's all in the code.
So my nervous system is basically running on this legacy OS full of old files I didn't even write.
That's a perfect analogy. And inside that hard drive, the text says there are these currents running through it. It calls them the Nagas.
The Nagas. Yeah. The serpents, right, from mythology.
That's the translation. But functionally, think of the Nagas as these deep biological instincts, the survival drives, that fight-or-flight reflex that just kind of writhes around in our genetic code.
That is such a visceral image. It makes your own body feel more crowded. Like I'm not just deciding to be anxious. I'm feeling the coil of some ancient survival program.
Precisely. It's not your fear, necessarily. It's the Naga reacting to a perceived threat based on old data. But we don't stop there. The axis goes higher. Layer 2.
The Noosphere, or Hrdaya, the heart.
Yes, but not the organ. The heart as the center of perception. The text calls it the exchange point.
Okay, so if the first layer is the hard drive, the hardware, what's this? The network card?
The Wi-Fi.
The Wi-Fi, that's a great way to put it. It's the network layer. It's where you interface with the collective mind, ideas, culture, social energy. It's the bridge, the text says, between ourselves and the stars.
I like that. A translation layer. Because you can't just plug raw biology, those serpents, directly into cosmic law. You'd short circuit. You need a buffer, a mediator. Which brings us to the top floor. Layer 3. The Stellarsphere. Randhra.
The crown connection. And it mentions Polaris, the North Star, which is always a symbol for a fixed point, something that doesn't move.
And that's the whole concept, fixed.
Yeah.
If the bottom layer, the biology, is messy and coiling and always changing, this top layer is the absolute unchangeable laws of the universe.
So this is the source code.
This is the operating system of reality itself. Truth, mathematics, universal principles. It's the part of our architecture that can connect to things that are true, whether you're in a good mood or a bad one.
Okay, so let me recap the stack because it's dense, bottom floor. Biosphere, the ancestral hard drive, full of Nagas. Top floor, Stellarsphere, the cosmic source code. And in the middle, the Noosphere, the heart, translating between them.
And the whole point is that a human being is that connection. We're not just the biology at the bottom. We are the wire holding it all together.
Which sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Powerful. But, I mean, looking at the world, looking at my own life, that is not how most of us are operating. We're not majestic conduits.
Yeah.
We're stressed. We're scattered.
We're broken. And the text goes right there. This is the diagnosis part of the briefing. It gives the modern human condition one word: atomization.
Atomization, breaking us down into tiny, separate pieces.
Exactly. And here's where it gets a little countercultural. The text argues we've been tricked. We've been convinced that being a disconnected individual equals freedom.
Oh, I see that everywhere. The whole self-made mythos. I don't need anyone. We're told total independence is the goal.
Right. But the source says that's the trap. It says, and I'm quoting here, in reality, an isolated node has no shielding.
No shielding. That implies we're under attack.
Or at least under pressure. If you cut yourself off from that vertical axis, from your ancestry and from higher truth, and you cut yourself off horizontally from your community, you're not free. You're just exposed.
Exposed to what?
The global siphon.
That does not sound good. The text says this is the algorithm or the state, right?
Yes. It frames these massive structures not as neutral, but as harvesting mechanisms. Because we're atomized, because we're unshielded, we're easily drained.
Drained of?
Attention.
Yeah.
Vitality. Emotional energy. That's the battery analogy coming back.
It's very Matrix, but it actually feels pretty grounded. I mean, think about social media. It literally harvests your attention to sell ads. If you're atomized and lonely, you're way more likely to just scroll for hours.
Exactly. The siphon feeds on the Nagas, on that low-level biological anxiety. When you're isolated, your survival instincts, your serpents, they go haywire, you feel unsafe, so you scroll, you buy stuff, you get outraged. The siphon just drinks that energy.
So an architect designs their reality, but a battery. Their reality is designed to extract value from them.
You got it. And the text is saying our modern exhaustion isn't just a personal failing. You're not just tired because you need more sleep. You're tired because you're structurally an atomized node in a harvesting system.
That is bleak. But, okay, I see the problem. So let's pivot to the solution. The repair job. The text calls it the Blue Crystal offering. And I'll be honest, when I first read Blue Crystal, my skeptic radar went off a little bit. You know, I'm picturing New Age shops, wind chimes.
I was right there with you. It sounds like something you'd buy on Etsy.
Yeah.
But we have to look at how the text defines it. It's very specific. The blue crystals are not physical gems. They are frozen logic.
Frozen logic. I love that. Back to the computer speak.
It is. It's geometric templates of pure vision. The Sanskrit term it uses is Pasyanti.
Pasyanti, okay.
It basically means a level of reality where an idea is still pure, undifferentiated truth. So think of it less like a rock and more like a perfect, unalterable algorithm. A geometric proof.
So it's a mental tool, a visualization of some kind.
It seems to be a cognitive tool, but one that's applied biologically. The whole process is called alchemical epigenetics.
Okay, let's break that down. Epigenetics, that's real science. It's about how your environment and behaviors can turn your genes on and off.
Right. And we know things like stress and belief, the placebo effect, can literally alter your biology. So the blue crystal offering is the process, which the text calls the suture.
The suture.
Of offering these geometric templates of perfect order to our DNA, to the Nagas.
So you're introducing frozen logic, absolute order, to the living hard drive of biological chaos.
Yes. And the text says this stops the chaotic coiling of that biological anxiety. It's a software update.
There's that computer language again. It's everywhere.
It fits perfectly, though. If your biology is running on old, corrupted software full of ancestral fear, you can't just wish it away.
You can't just tell yourself, don't be anxious.
The code is too deep. You have to overwrite it. You need to upload a higher order command. That's the blue crystal. It's a patch that tells the biology, you are safe, you are ordered, you are under command.
That's fascinating. It's like hacking your own nervous system. Instead of letting the anxious serpents drive, you're imposing a structure on them.
Right. You're restoring what it calls sovereign command. You move from reacting, which is what a battery does, to structuring. Which is what an architect does.
But, okay, is this just another word for meditation? Visualization?
The difference seems to be the intensity and the intent. Meditation is often about observing, oh, there's anxiety, let me watch it.
Yeah.
This sounds more active, more forceful.
Imposing.
You're taking the authority of the Stellarsphere, that cosmic law, and you're suturing it, stitching it, right down into the Biosphere to stabilize the whole system.
The suture. I really like that image. Okay, so I do that. I run the software update. I stabilize my Nagas. I feel sovereign. But the text doesn't just leave us there as these isolated, upgraded individuals, does it?
No, and that's the most critical part. Because if it did, we'd just go right back to the atomization trap.
Right.
You cannot hold this state alone. The siphon is too strong. The environment is too chaotic. If you try to be a lone sovereign architect, you'll just get drained all over again.
So what's the end goal?
The goal is to build the Vajrakula.
Vajrakula. Okay, Kula is like family or community. But Vajra, that's a heavy word.
It means diamond or thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Indestructible. It cuts everything, but can't be cut. The text is clear. This isn't a return to the Stone Age. It's a move into the Iron Vajra Age.
So we're not retreating. We're building something durable.
Durable and defensive. These communities are described as buffer organs.
Buffer organs, back to the biological metaphor, like a liver filtering out toxins.
Exactly. If the atomized individual has no shield, the Vajrakula is the shield. It's a group of people built on sovereignty and shared truth, and their whole function is to buffer against the harvest of the postmodern world.
That makes so much sense. If I'm alone and having a bad day, the algorithm can easily hijack me. But if I'm in a Kula with people who are also running this blue crystal software,
they hold the frequency for you when you can't. It's a collective defense. It's an acknowledgement that you can't maintain that source code connection if you're constantly being drained. You need a container.
A tribe of sovereigns, not followers.
That's a key distinction. It's not a cult. It's a network of architects. And that leads to the mantra the text ends with. In Sanskrit, Vayam Ishvarosma.
Which means we are the sovereigns.
Not I.
We.
That plural is everything.
It really is. The ultimate expression isn't some lonely hermit on a mountain. It's a distributed system of activated, architect-level humans operating together.
So let's zoom out. We start with this architecture, human as a vertical axis.
Right. The bridge. Biosphere at the bottom, Stellarsphere at the top.
But we're broken by atomization. Convinced isolation is freedom, which actually makes us vulnerable to the global siphon, turns us into batteries.
We leak energy. We're loose wires.
The fix is this alchemical epigenetics.
Yeah.
Using frozen logic, these blue crystal templates, to overwrite our chaotic biology with a code of command.
We calm the Nagas. We run the update.
And then, crucially, we don't stop there. We build buffer organs, these Vajrakulas, to protect that sovereignty so we don't get drained again.
That's the full arc. From passive victim to active architect. It's an incredibly empowering framework. I mean, even if you strip away all the metaphysics, the core psychological insight is still there. You have ancient survival drives, they're being exploited, and you need a disciplined collective structure to regain control.
Absolutely. And what I love is how it rejects the whole mind-body split. It says you can't ignore your biology. The Nagas are real. If you ignore them, they will bite you. But you also can't ignore the cosmic laws. You have to be where they meet.
And you have to take responsibility for it. I mean, we're so used to looking for an external fix-a-pill, a politician, whatever. This says, no, you are the architect. You have the access codes. Run the update.
And find your Kula. Find the others running the same update. Because doing it alone is playing life on hard mode.
So, as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone listening with something to chew on. We talked about the Biosphere being this living hard drive of ancestral data full of old fears and traumas. So, here's the question. If your biology is a hard drive, what specific software update or frozen logic are you currently running on it? And, more importantly, is it a program you consciously chose for yourself? Or is it one that was uploaded by the siphon when you weren't looking?
That's the question that decides if you're a battery or an architect.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.
Okay, let's start with a feeling. A feeling I think pretty much everyone listening has had. Probably today, even. It's that feeling of being an island. You know what I mean? You're in a crowd, you got headphones on, and you feel like this totally self-contained unit.
The island sensation, yeah, it's kind of the default setting for most of us, isn't it?
Completely. It's this idea that everything that matters, my thoughts, my DNA, my anxiety, it's all happening inside this skin bag.
Right. The skin is a fortress wall. Inside is me. Outside is not me.
Exactly. We're in solitary confinement inside our own bodies.
Which is, a functional way to get through the day. You need that boundary or you'd be overwhelmed. But the documents we're diving into today, they argue that this feeling It might be functional, but it's actually a hallucination.
A glitch in the interface.
That's the term.
And that's what hooked me. The source material, a document called the Triple Alaya and the Axis of Being, it just comes right out and says, stop thinking of yourself as an island. You aren't an island.
You're a node.
You're a node. And that isn't just like a cute metaphor. It's an architectural shift.
It is. The text is trying to merge two completely different worlds. On one hand, you have ancient Buddhist philosophy, specifically this concept of Alaya Vishnana.
Whoa, okay. That's a bit of a mouthful for a Tuesday.
It is. It translates very roughly to storehouse consciousness. So you've got that. And then the text just smashes it together with this super modern, almost cyberpunk language.
Cloud computing.
Exactly. It reframes a person not as a biological box, but as a triple-layered cloud system.
See, I love that. Because storehouse consciousness, honestly, that's a bit abstract. I can nod at it, but I don't really get it.
Sure.
But a cloud system, I get that. I get how my phone connects to a server. I get uploading, downloading. And this document is saying that we are essentially localized terminals for a massive planetary nervous system.
And it changes the whole game. If you're an island, your job is just to survive, protect the borders.
Right.
But if you're a node, your job is to process the signal correctly. It fundamentally redefines what human being is.
The text even calls this the shift from being a passive battery to a sovereign governor.
A fantastic phrase.
It sounds like a promotion. But before we get to the how to become a governor, we have to map out the what. Because the way this document describes our structure is, well, it's intense.
It all starts with that core idea, the Alaya.
The hard drive of reality. I love that.
That's the phrase. In modern psychology, we tend to think of memory as something stored in the brain, right? This wet piece of meat in your skull.
It's local storage. The hard drive is in the box. If the box breaks, the data's gone.
But the Alaya concept, that's cloud storage. It's based on this idea of dependent origination.
Meaning nothing exists in a vacuum.
Precisely. A wave isn't a separate thing from the ocean. A wave is the ocean, just doing something in a particular place at a particular time.
The source material brought up a great stat to ground this. It said 99.9% of your DNA is shared with the entire biosphere. And we spend all our time obsessing over that tiny 0.1% that makes us unique. Our eye color, our quirks. And we forget the code running the whole system isn't even ours.
It belongs to the planet. It's a shared code base.
It's open source software we're just borrowing for 80 years or so.
And that's not just the biology. The text brings up the Noosphere.
The sphere of thought.
Right. I mean, the words we're using right now, you didn't invent them. You downloaded them. The concepts of anxiety or freedom, they were uploaded to you.
So my private inner monologue, which feels so intensely personal, is actually running on public domain software.
Which brings us to the user interface metaphor from the text. You are a UI for a collective field.
That clicks. That makes the node idea make sense.
Yeah.
My laptop doesn't have the whole internet inside it. It accesses the field. It displays a slice of it.
Exactly. You're not generating reality from scratch. You're parsing it. But, and this is where it gets really specific, you're not just a random screen floating around. There's a very specific architecture to this node.
This is the vertical data bus.
Right, the Randhra, Hrdaya, Kunda axis.
Okay, another mouthful. But the text maps them to 3 storehouses or layers. Let's try to visualize this because this is the map of you, according to this source.
Let's do it.
Okay, so imagine a pillar of light. Or, let's stick with the tech theme, a fiber optic cable running vertically through the center of your body, base of the spine, right up through the top of your head.
Your main circuit board.
And it had 3 main stops, 3 servers. Let's start at the bottom. The first layer is the Kunda.
The root. The text calls this the Biosphere layer, the biological Alaya.
So this is the server rack in the basement. It's the hardware.
It's the hardware. The Kunda is the storehouse of your ancestors. It's where that 99.9% of shared DNA actually lives. It's deep, it's dark, it's almost totally unconscious.
The lizard brain, right? The fight or flight, the hunger.
Yeah.
The stuff that just happens without me thinking about it.
It's the code of life written into your physical body. The text is clear on this. This is what anchors you to the physical plane. If your Kunda, your hardware, is overheating, the whole system crashes.
Okay, so Kunda is the root, the heavy metal. Now we move up the axis to the center of the chest, the Hrdaya.
A heart, but not in the Valentine's Day sense. The text is very specific. This is the Noosphere.
This is the bridge. This is where sense data meets the collective mind.
Think about it. Your eye sees a shape. That's just raw data, photons. But your mind instantly labels it friend or threat or boring. That labeling process happens here, at the Hrdaya. It's where your personal biological reality gets stitched into the shared social reality.
The document used a really great word for this, suture.
I love that word. A suture isn't passive, it's an active binding of two things. When we talk, we are suturing our realities together. We're running on a shared network protocol.
So the heart is the network layer. It's the Wi-Fi.
It is. It's where all the traffic is. And frankly, most people live their entire lives stuck on this floor. Trapped in the social web, the drama, the likes, the comments.
The noisy office. But there's another floor above that, the penthouse, the Randhra.
The crown, and this is where the text goes, a cosmological. It calls this the Stellarsphere. It specifically names Polaris.
The North Star. Yeah, this part threw me for a loop. Why are we suddenly talking about astronomy? We were on hard drives and biology, and now we're looking at star charts.
It's about having a fixed geometry. Think about it. Everything on Earth changes. The seasons, people, empires, your own body, it's all in flux.
Sure.
But the stars, to the naked eye, they're constant. They represent the eternal laws, the deep mathematics of the universe.
So if the root is messy biology, and the heart is messy social drama, the crown is the source code.
That's the exact term the text uses, the Absolute Alaya. It's admin access to the operating system. It's truth that isn't filtered by your feelings or your DNA, the navigation constants.
So the whole axis of being is this tension. We're stretched between the mud of the Kunda and the stars of the Randhra.
With the heart, the Hrdaya, mediating the traffic between them, you are a pillar connecting earth and sky.
Okay, but here's the kicker. The system isn't just sitting there. It's on, it's running, it's doing something.
It's parsing reality.
That's a coding term. Breaking down data to understand it.
And the text says you are doing this every millisecond. Light hits your eye, that's raw data. You run it through the heart, the social filter, and then you store it.
You write it to the hard drive.
You write it into the Kunda, into your biology.
Whoa, hold on, let's slow down there. So my experiences, the stress I had today, the joy I felt yesterday, they don't just disappear.
According to this model, no. They get written into your code. This is a very different take on karma. It's not cosmic punishment, it's just data storage. If you spend years parsing reality through a filter of anger,
you're writing anger onto your own biological hard drive.
You're filling the server with malware, you're coding your body to be an anger machine, and the next time you boot up, that code runs automatically.
Yeah, that leads right to this idea of being a battery versus a governor.
Right. A battery is passive. It just takes the input, the news, the stress parses it badly, and stores the junk data. They're just charging the collective anxiety of the network.
Whereas a sovereign governor takes control of that whole process.
You become the system admin. You decide what gets written to the disk.
And the text gives us two commands for this, which I love because it sounds like tech support. Update the software and clear the hard drive.
Let's start at the top. Update the software happens at the crown, the Randhra.
So connecting to the source code.
Yes. It means stepping out of the noisy heart layer for a minute, ignoring the social media drama, the current thing, and aligning your mind with higher principles. Truth, logic, compassion, whatever you want to call them. It's reorienting to those navigation constants.
It's recalibrating your compass. Otherwise, you're just navigating with bad maps someone else gave you, running on outdated drivers.
Exactly. And once you've done that, you have to go down to the basement and clear the hard drive.
Kunda, the root.
And this is the heavy lifting. This isn't just thinking. This is deep work. It's looking at the code you inherited, the trauma, the bad habits you've written to your own disk, and actively choosing to delete the corrupted files.
And I like that you can delete them. Just because it's in the hardware doesn't mean it's permanent.
It's read-write memory, not read-only. But you have to go down there and do the work. You can't think your way out of it. You have to feel your way through it.
So the governor is someone who is constantly downloading patches from the stars and running virus scans on their own body.
That is a perfect summary, with the heart as the keyboard where they execute the commands.
Now the text throws a bit of a curveball near the end. It mentions these other deeper internal documents, something called numerological audits.
Right. Numerological just refers to the mind, but audit is the key word. An audit is a rigorous inventory. It's not just quiet meditation. It's actively mapping the recursive loop in your own system.
It's like forensic accounting for your soul.
It is, finding the leaks in the code.
And then there's this other term that really jumped out at me, the blue crystal offering.
Yeah, that one stands out from the tech jargon.
It sounds like something from a video game, but its purpose is listed very clearly to heal one's own biological code.
And specifically to Suture the axis.
Suture the axis. So repair that fiber optic cable we were talking about.
Exactly. I mean, if we go all the way back to the start, that feeling of being an island, that's a symptom of a broken axis. The connection between the root and the crown is severed. You're just living in the heart, spinning in the social drama, cut off from both the earth and the sky.
So the blue crystal offering, whatever that actually is, it's the maintenance protocol, the repair job.
It's how you turn the node back on, fully. Because a broken node just adds noise and static to the network.
Yeah.
But a healed node, an avatar.
That transmits a clean signal.
And because of that network layer in the heart...
When you transmit a clean signal,
yeah,
you help heal the other nodes around you.
You got it. It all circles back to dependent origination. If you parse reality with fear, you broadcast fear into the Noosphere. If you parse it with clarity, you broadcast clarity.
You're doing tech support for the collective consciousness.
Have you tried turning your ego off and on again?
I love that.
Yeah.
But it's a big responsibility. It's not just about you.
It's systemic maintenance.
It is.
Yeah.
We started this talking about feeling like isolated skin bags, but this text just flips that completely. We are triple-layered cloud systems.
A root storing the entire history of life, a heart stitching us to everyone, a crown accessing universal truth.
And we have the agency to run the system. We can be governors.
It really is all about the parsing. The world will throw garbage data at you all day. That's a given.
You can't control the internet.
But you can control what shows up on your display.
Yeah.
And you can control what you save to the disk. You don't have to save the spam.
So here's the question I want to leave everyone with. It's really a data management question.
Sure.
If you are the user interface for this massive collective field, what kind of data are you choosing to write onto the hard drive of reality today?
Are you writing bugs or are you writing features?
That's the choice.
Yeah.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Go update your software.
And clear that hard drive. So let me just start with a weird question. It's going to sound like something out of a sci-fi novel, but just bear with me. Is it possible that you are, like right now, literally 3D printing your own biology with nothing but your thoughts and your habits?
It definitely sounds like science fiction. But, when you look at where epigenetics crashes into ancient metaphysics, it's a question that, it demands a pretty serious answer.
Exactly. And that is exactly where we're going today. We are looking at this stack of notes and research that's all centered around a concept called the recursive alaya. We're pulling from a source called the Neological Audit. And honestly, when I first saw that title, I thought, okay, I need a dictionary before I even open the first page.
It's a dense title for sure. It's crucial.
Yeah.
Neological basically just refers to the study of the mind, the intellect. So when the text talks about a neological audit, it's really talking about doing a kind of forensic accounting of your own consciousness.
The forensic accounting?
Yeah, asking, where is your attention going? What are you processing? And, what's the net result?
Right. An audit of the mind. And what's so wild about this document is how it frames the human body and mind as this single continuous processing system. But it doesn't use all this, flowery, mystical language. It maps ancient Sanskrit terms almost perfectly onto modern computer science concepts.
And that's what makes this deep dive so unique.
Yeah.
Usually when we talk about metaphysics, we're dealing with these vague clouds of energy. But this source is talking about hard drives, CPUs, ZIP files.
Network cards.
Exactly. It's incredibly technical. It's almost like an engineering manual for spiritual anatomy.
Which I love because I can understand a hard drive. I struggle with clouds of unknowing, but I know what happens when my hard drive gets full.
Precisely. And the mission for us today is to really understand what the source calls the Dausal view. We want to trace the path of a single unit of information. Let's say a stressful email you get or a song you can't get out of your head. From the moment it hits your senses until it literally becomes part of your DNA.
So we're going to cover three main metaphors the source uses to explain this. First, there's the cooling effect.
Right. How hot data becomes cold code.
Second, the vertical bus, which is the tech stack of your physical body.
And then finally, the ZIP file of rebirth.
And that last one, the ZIP file concept, it just completely reframes the whole mechanism of how life passes from one stage to the next.
It really does.
It's a lot to unpack. So let's start at the very beginning. The input. The source talks about sensory harvesters. It lists the lower 7 consciousnesses, eyes, ears, mind, ego, and so on. But it calls them harvesters. That feels very specific.
It is, because in this model, your engagement with the world isn't passive. You aren't just a camera letting light in. Your eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, mind, these are active tools. The source describes them as sensory harvesters that are constantly reaching out and pulling in raw data.
Sensory harvesters. It's almost agricultural, like we're all just combines running through a field of information.
That's a great analogy, your harvesting experience. And the key characteristic of this fresh harvest is its temperature. The source describes all sensory data as being hot and dynamic.
Hot data. Okay, so let's make this concrete. I'm driving to work, someone cuts me off, I get that huge spike of adrenaline, I'm yelling inside my car. That anger, that's hot information.
Exactly. It's volatile, it's a wave, it's happening in real time, it's fluid energy. But, and this is the physics of it, you can't build a stable structure out of hot fluid waves.
You can't build a house out of steam.
You can't. You have to cool it down.
The cooling effect. Okay, so this is the first major mechanism. Walk us through this. How does my hot road rage become cold biology?
So think of it like a forge, or maybe 3D printing with molten plastic is better. The information comes in hot through the senses. It then gets processed by the Hrdaya, which the text says is the heart, or the middle alaya. This is the processing center. But for that info to be stored permanently in the Kunda, the root alaya, your DNA, it has to lose that heat. It has to solidify.
But wait, I have plenty of hot thoughts that I forget 5 minutes later. The guy cuts me off, I yell, I get over it. That doesn't become DNA, right?
Correct. If you let it pass, it stays a wave. It just dissipates. The mechanism for solidification, for turning that wave into a particle, is what the source calls vasana.
Vasana.
It translates to perfuming, but in this technical context, it really means repetition, recursive iteration.
Ah, okay. So if I just get mad that one time, it's gone. But if I get to work and I tell my coworker about the guy who cut me off, and then I go home and tell my partner, and then I'm laying in bed replaying the whole scene.
Now you're engaging in vasana. You are perfuming your consciousness with that specific frequency. You're keeping the pattern alive, but you're stripping away the volatility. You are cooling it.
Into a habit.
Into a habit. And the source says this leads to a phase transition.
Okay.
And this is the core aha moment of the text. Think about water. When it's hot, it's steam. It moves fast. Then it cools, it becomes liquid, it freezes, it's ice.
A solid structure?
It's a solid structure. The text argues that when a frequency is repeated enough, it undergoes that phase transition. It shifts from being a wave in the Noosphere, just a mental thought, to becoming a particle in the Biosphere.
That is wild. So habitual intent literally crystallizes into matter.
The source is pretty literal about this. It says this is how satana, or intent, becomes epigenetic, or genetic code. You're taking the fluid energy of your mind and cooling it down until it's the hard structure of your body.
That's actually kind of terrifying. It implies I'm not just having a bad day. If I have that same bad day every single day, I'm literally writing bad day into my own source code. I'm 3D printing a body that is wired for a bad day.
That's the heavy responsibility the text puts on us. It says you are literally 3D printing your biology with your habitual intent. The hot drama of your daily life, if you hold on to it, cools into the cold hard drive of your genetics.
You're building the machine you live in. Okay, speaking of building machines, this is the perfect bridge to the next segment. The source doesn't just leave it at hot and cold. It maps this whole process onto the anatomy of the body, but it uses computer architecture terms. It calls it the Kunda Hrdaya Randhra axis.
Or, to use the English translation the text gives, the vertical bus.
Right, the vertical bus. And for anyone listening who's not a techie, a bus in a computer isn't a vehicle, it's a communication system, right? It transfers data between components.
Like the wires connecting your processor to your memory.
Yeah.
Yes.
The source is saying our spine, our vertical axis, is literally a data bus. It's a very apt comparison.
Because it's carrying all these electrochemical signals.
Data, up and down the system. And the text breaks this down into 3 main components: the Kunda, the Hrdaya, and the Randhra.
Okay, let's start at the bottom of the stack. The Kunda.
The Kunda is identified as the root alaya.
Yep.
In biological terms, the source links this directly to DNA and the Nagas. Okay, we have to pause on Nagas, because usually when I hear Nagas, I think of, Hindu mythology, snake beings, maybe a Dungeons and Dragons monster. Are we talking about literal snakes here?
No, not in this context. It's symbolic code. Think about the shape of DNA. It's a double helix.
2 intertwining serpents.
Exactly. So in this Dausal view, the Nagas represent the keepers of the code. They are the guardians of the hard drive.
Got it. So Kunda is the hard drive.
Yes. And it stores deep-time biological metadata. This isn't just your memories from last week.
Yeah.
This is the storage of eons. It's the cooled down, solidified history of your biological line.
The operating system that runs your heartbeat, your digestion.
All without you having to think about it. It's the cold storage. It's the server room in the basement that no one goes into, but everyone depends on.
Okay, so moving up the bus to the center.
Yeah.
The Hrdaya, the heart, the middle Alaya. The source calls this the CPU and RAM. This was the part that surprised me. I mean, usually we think of the brain as the CPU. The brain's computer, right? So why does this text say the heart is the processor?
It's a big shift in perspective. In this model, the brain is treated more like a sensory organ, maybe an interface. The heart, the Hrdaya, is the meeting point. It's where the active consciousnesses, those sensory harvesters we mentioned, meet the storehouse.
So the heart is where the hot data meets the cold code.
Precisely. It's your RAM, your random access memory.
Yeah.
It's what you are holding in your active awareness right now. It's the decision point.
Where you decide, do I let this thought pass through, or do I repeat it and cool it down?
Exactly. The Hrdaya is the site of the Saha, which means the world. It's where your world is actually happening.
That makes a lot of sense. When I'm really processing something emotionally, intellectually, I feel it in my chest, not just my head. It's where the friction happens.
Right. And then we have the top of the stack, the Randhra.
The Randhra, identified as the aperture or the suture at the very top of the head. And the source calls this the network card.
Yeah. Your Wi-Fi antenna. It connects the individual unit you to the Brahma command of the cosmic field. It's the port through which you access the wider network.
Which brings us to the third big idea, the network itself. The source calls it Indra's web. And I love this distinction it makes right off the bat. The Alaya is not a bucket. It is a transceiver.
That is the vital distinction.
Yeah.
So many people think of the subconscious or the Alaya as just a dumpster, a mental basement where we throw all our repressed memories.
I'll just stuff that feeling down there and deal with it. Never.
Right. A bucket that just gets fuller and fuller. But a transceiver sends and it receives. It is a two-way street. You're constantly broadcasting and you're constantly downloading.
Okay, so let's talk about the upload. If I'm a node on this cosmic internet, what am I uploading? Hopefully not just my road rage.
Well, you are uploading that too, unfortunately. But the text highlights something much more positive. It says that every time you resolve a granthiga, which is a Sanskrit term for a psychological or energetic knot, you are uploading a patch.
A patch, like a software update.
Exactly. Think about open source software. If you find a bug in the code, say a specific type of anxiety or a pattern of trauma, and you fix it in yourself, you do the work. You figure out the solution. You resolve that granthiga.
I finally get over my fear of public speaking, or I forgive someone I've hated for 10 years.
You're effectively writing a patch for that specific bug. And because you are a transceiver connected to Indra's web, you are uploading that solution to the collective Alaya.
You aren't just fixing you.
No. You're making that specific frequency easier for others to find.
That's incredibly empowering. It makes personal growth feel almost like community service. If I fix my own code, I'm contributing to the library everyone else pulls from.
It creates a morphogenic resonance, to borrow a term from biology. But then you have the download. And this is where the source gets a little critical of how most of us operate.
Yeah, I noticed that. It contrasts the Stellarsphere with the slop at the collective. It feels like a critique of the modern internet, honestly.
It's timeless, really. The idea is if you just leave your Wi-Fi open to the local network, the collective Alaya, you are often just downloading the noise, the fears, the confusion of everyone around you. The text calls this the slop.
So doom scrolling, panic spirals, trends that make no sense but everyone's doing them, that's the slop.
Essentially, yes. It's corrupted data. Buggy software. But the force suggests the different source for your downloads. It mentions the Stellarsphere and specifically the connection to Randhra and Polaris.
Polaris, the North Star.
Symbolically, the fixed point, the center of the spinning sky. The source says this connection holds the universal standards. When you suture your Randhra to Polaris, which is a poetic way of saying when you align your consciousness with a fixed higher principle, you're downloading the original source code.
So you're ignoring the buggy user-generated content and going straight to the developer documentation?
Precisely. You're bypassing the local cache of anxiety and confusion and downloading the clean, original operating system.
So we have the system. We pull in hot data, process it in the heart, cool it into code in our DNA, and we upload and download from the network. It's a full life cycle of information. But then the source takes this massive leap. It zooms out to the very end of the physical life cycle. The recursive loop of rebirth.
And this is where the computer analogy just reaches its absolute peak. It answers the question, What happens to all that code we wrote?
It calls the Alaya vortex a compressed ZIP file. I have to admit, I laughed out loud when I read that. My soul is a ZIP file, but when you dig into it, it actually works.
It works perfectly. Think about what a ZIP file is. You have a massive project, folder gigabytes of data, thousands of files. You can't email that. So you compress it, you strip out all the white space and turn it into this tiny, dense packet of code.
That contains the instructions to recreate the folder.
Yes. So your entire life, your memories, habits, your genetic code, all your cool data, at the end of the cycle, it all gets zipped up.
Into a seed.
Into a seed. And that packet contains the blueprint for the next iteration. The new human being isn't an accident. It is the unzipping of that file.
I just hope my ZIP file isn't corrupted. I'd hate to come back and get a CRC error on my new body.
Well, that's where the patches come in handy. But let's look at the unpacking process. The source says there are 3 distinct contributors when this ZIP file enters the womb.
Right. It's not just the file doing all the work. It takes a village, or at least 3 systems.
First, you have the cosmic Alaya, represented by Polaris again. This provides the laws of physics.
The environment, gravity, thermodynamics, time. You can't build a body without the rules of the game.
Exactly. The engine. Second, you have the collective Alaya. This comes from the parents, from society. The source calls this the cultural skin.
That's a vivid image, cultural skin. So my language, the social norms I'm born into, the fact that I'm born in 2026 versus 1026, that's the wrapper.
That is the interface layer. But the core, the kernel, that comes from the individual Alaya. That's the karmic seed. That is the ZIP file itself.
And this is where the Nagas come back, right? The construction crew.
The Nagas, the DNA mechanism, they read the instructions in that ZIP file to build the physical body. They're the builders. They look at the blueprint you cooled and stored in your previous cycle, and they say, okay, the instructions say build a liver that processes stress this way, or build a nervous system that reacts to sound that way.
That is just mind-blowing. So if we connect this all the way back to the beginning, that road rage I felt, that hot data, if I repeat it and cool it and store it, I am effectively writing the ReAdM file for the ZIP that will build me next time.
That's the implication. It's recursive. That's why we called this the recursive Alaya.
Yeah.
The output of one cycle becomes the input code for the next. The system feeds back on itself.
It really removes the idea of victimhood from the equation, doesn't it? I mean, obviously we deal with the cultural skin and the laws of physics we're handed,
Yeah.
but we don't control gravity or who our parents are. But the seed, the internal code, we're writing that.
We are writing it constantly, keystroke by keystroke. And I think that's the most empowering takeaway from this whole notological audit. It just shifts the perspective. You're not just a passive observer watching the movie of your life.
You're the coder.
You're the coder. You're constantly in the command line, whether you realize it or not.
But the problem is, most of us are just typing with our elbows. We're letting the lower 7 sensory harvesters run wild, pulling in whatever hot data is around, scary news, gossip, junk food for the mind, and letting it cool into whatever shape it wants.
Which is why the source emphasizes the Randhra connection so much. If you aren't actively downloading the original source code, the clear standards, the high principles, you're just building your body out of the slop. You're building a house out of trash because you didn't go to the lumber yard.
The slop, that word is going to stick with me. It raises a huge question for anyone listening. If you accept this model, even just as a metaphor, it changes how you view your daily routine.
It raises the stakes. A bad habit isn't just a nuisance. It's a line of corrupt code you are saving to the hard drive, a glitch you're hardwiring into the system.
And on the flip side, a good habit, a moment of resolving a knot, of forgiveness, of clarity, that's a patch.
And you're uploading that patch to the whole network. You're making the whole system run a little bit smoother.
Yeah.
You become a net contributor.
So to synthesize what we've covered, because we've been all over the stack here, we started with the sensory vortex, where raw, hot data comes in. We talked about how that data has to cool to become structure through repetition, through Vasana.
We looked at the vertical bus. The Kunda is the hard drive. Hrdaya is the CPU, and Randhra as the network card, which acts as the hardware for this whole process.
Then we discussed the network, Indra's web, and the importance of acting as a transceiver, uploading your patches and downloading from the source, not the collective slop.
And finally, we saw how it all gets compressed into that ZIP file to be unpacked into a new life, built by the DNA based on the instructions we ourselves wrote.
It's a complete system.
From a fleeting thought to a hardwired gene.
It frames the human experience not as a ride we're on, but as a project we're managing. We are the sysadmins of our own biology.
And like any good sysadmin knows, You have to be careful what you let onto the server. You have to manage the temperature. You have to run regular audits.
Numerological audits, to be exact.
Indeed.
Yeah.
You have to check the logs.
You know, it makes me think about what I'm going to do right after we finish recording. I'm going to be so conscious of the temperature of the information I consume. If I feel myself getting heated up, I need to realize, okay, this is hot data. Do I want to cool this into a permanent fixture, or do I just let it vent?
That's the first step. Catching the wave before it becomes a particle. Awareness is the circuit breaker.
Well, listener, we hope this deep dive gave you a new lens to look at your own mind and body. It's a lot to process. Maybe let this episode cool a bit in your own Hrdaya before you store it away.
And remember, the network is always open. You can always download a patch if you need one.
Before we go, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over. We talked about how repetition turns a wave of thought into a particle of biology. So ask yourself this. If every repeated thought is literally an instruction you are giving to your DNA, what specific biological instruction are you 3D printing right now with the thoughts you've been holding on to today? Are you printing resilience? Are you printing anxiety? Are you printing kindness? The printer is running right now in the background. Make sure you like the design.
Check your code.
Thanks for diving up with us. We'll see you on the next one.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We have a stack of sources today that, I have to be honest, threw me for a loop when I first saw the title. It's called the Triple Alaya Suture.
It is a mouthful, isn't it?
It really is. It sounds like, I don't know, a medical procedure gone wrong, or maybe some kind of advanced geometry problem from a dimension I didn't know existed.
I can see that.
You've got Alaya, which sounds mystical, suture, which makes me think of surgery, and triple. I wasn't sure if we were going to be talking about biology, philosophy, or how to knit.
Well, in a strange way, it's kind of all three. And you're right to be a little intimidated by the title. It is dense. But what we're looking at here isn't just a dry text.
Okay.
Think of this source material more as a schematic. It's a vertical map of the human being.
A vertical map. That's interesting. Usually when I think of mapping a life, I think of a timeline. You know, born here, went to school, retired there, horizontal.
Exactly. Most of us see ourselves moving horizontally through time, day to day. This text proposes a different structure, a vertical one, where a human being is an anchor point.
An anchor.
An anchor between three very distinct spheres of existence: the biological, the mental, and the cosmic.
Okay, before we start climbing this ladder, I guess we need to clear up the jargon. Alaya. I've seen it in Buddhist philosophy, but how is this text using it?
Good question. For this document, we need to strip away some of the religious baggage and think of Alaya simply as the storehouse.
The storehouse, like a hard drive, a cloud server.
Exactly. A repository, a place where data and memory are kept. But the key idea here is that there isn't just one storehouse. There are three distinct layers of storage. 3 alayas.
And the suture. That's the stitching.
That's the stitching, yeah. If you have 3 separate layers, say the mud of biology, the wind of the mind, and the fire of the stars, they shouldn't be able to touch. They're too different.
Right.
A suture is the mechanism that stitches these incompatible realities together into one functioning unit, and that unit is you. You
are the stitch. I like that. It puts you, the listener, right in the middle of the action. So, okay, our roadmap, we have 3 layers to unpack. The Biosphere, the Noosphere, and the Stellarsphere.
From the mud to the stars.
Let's start in the mud then. The bottom layer. The text calls this the Biosphere Alaya, the root, and it immediately links this ancient concept to something very modern, DNA.
This is where the text gets incredibly grounding. It explicitly calls DNA the biological Alaya Vijnana. Now, that's a Sanskrit term, Alaya Vijnana, usually for a high-level storehouse consciousness.
So it's saying our genes are a form of consciousness.
Or at least a form of memory. The source calls DNA the hard-coded memory of the species, and it uses a metaphor that I think is brilliant. It calls the physical body a loom.
A loom. That implies it's active. It's weaving something. It's not just a static blueprint that gets printed once and that's it.
Precisely. It's weaving the record of existence in real time. The text says this storehouse holds every adaptation and every trauma. Think about that. It's not just your eye color. It's a historical document of survival. Every time an ancestor survived a famine or outran a predator, that data is stored in the Biosphere Alaya.
That makes ancestry feel incredibly heavy. It's not just a family tree on paper. It's physically written into the code running your body right now.
Yeah.
Like we're carrying the ghosts of every struggle.
We are. And because it's a record of survival, it's loaded with energy. The text introduces another term for this energy, Kunda.
Kunda, is that related to Kundalini?
Same root, yes. But here, the text is very specific. It says Kunda is the site of the red heat.
Red heat, that sounds volatile.
It is. It's potential energy. The source describes it as the coiled potential of the biosphere. Think of a compressed spring or a tank of rocket fuel. It's that raw biological drive to exist. It's the engine room.
But you can't just have raw heat exploding all over the place. If I'm just walking around with this red heat constantly firing, I'm going to burn out or punch someone.
Or have a panic attack, right? Which is why the text emphasizes stabilization. It says there's a requirement for grounding in the relative. And it uses a metaphor that's almost funny. It's so domestic. The heating pad.
The heating pad, like for a sore back.
In a sense, the idea is you need a warm, stable base. You have to stabilize that Kunda energy. If you don't have that grounding, that heating pad, you can't do anything else. You need it to allow the subtle winds to begin their ascent.
I love that. So before you try to achieve enlightenment, you basically need to be comfortable.
It sounds mundane, but yeah, if your nervous system is in survival mode, the energy is just trapped in that red heat. It just cycles there. You can't launch a satellite from a swamp. You need a solid launch pad. That's the Biosphere Alaya.
Okay, so we're grounded. The heating pad is on. The body feels safe. Now we move up. Second layer, Noosphere Alaya. The text calls this the center. Noosphere is the realm of thought, right?
Right. We're leaving the purely biological and entering the informational, the collective mental layer.
Is this just my personal thoughts? My grocery list, my worries?
It includes that, but it's much, much deeper. This is where, and I quote, archetypes and egregores reside.
Egregores. Okay, we should probably define that one. It sounds like a monster from a fantasy novel.
It does, doesn't it? An egregore is basically a thought form that takes on a life of its own because a group of people believes in it. A nation is an egregore. A corporation. Even money. They're shared ideas that structure our reality.
So it's the shared cloud server for all of humanity. And the text says the physical anchor for this layer is the heart, the Hrdaya.
Yes, Hrdaya. And this is pivotal. The text calls the heart the site of the suture.
There's that word again from the title.
This is the absolute crux of the system. The heart isn't just a pump here. It's the meeting point between the biological record below that DNA, that red heat, and the cosmic decree from above.
So the heart is the stitch. It's the knot tying the mud to the stars.
Beautifully put, yes. It's the mediator. The text calls this realm the all-soul, where current communication occurs. The DNA is the past, the ancient record.
And the heart is the present.
The heart is the negotiation. It's the conference room. You can't connect the raw, explosive heat of biology directly to the absolute cold of the cosmos. It would just fry the system. You need a transformer in the middle. The heart is that transformer.
That's a great image. High voltage coming from both ends, and the heart steps it down so they can interface. Okay. So heat below, transformer in the middle, now the top layer, Stellarsphere Alaya.
The crown. And here, the text shifts from biology and psychology into, well, pure geometry. It links this layer directly to Polaris.
The North Star.
But not just as a star in the sky. It calls Polaris the Z0 of the cosmos.
Z0. That sounds like a machining term, like coordinates for a 3D printer.
It is. Z0 is a fixed point of origin,
Yeah.
calibration point. If you lose your Z0, your machine crashes. You have no reference. This is the Absolute Alaya. Unlike the Biosphere, which is hot and messy, this layer stores information as pure, unmanifest geometry.
Unmanifest geometry. That's a trippy concept. It sounds very cold.
Yeah.
Is there no story there? No trauma?
No trauma, no heat, just structure, just truth with a capital T. It is the static, unchanging point. The ocean is moving, the waves are crashing. That's the Biosphere and Noospheres. But Polaris stays still.
And the physical location for this is the Randhra, the crown of the head.
The Randhra, yes, the opening, the vertical exit point.
The text mentions something about a seed here, the Azure Bija.
Right. It says this is the point where the mind dissolves into the Azure Bija. Bija means seed. Azure means the sky, the blue. It's the point of dissolution, where we're constructed below and where we dissolve back into the absolute above.
So we have this incredible vertical structure, DNA and red heat at the bottom, Polaris and geometry at the top, and the heart stitching it all together in the middle. But they sound like static layers. How do they actually work together? A map is useless if you don't know how to travel it.
That's the million-dollar question, and the source addresses this in a section called The Circulation of the Winds.
The winds.
Vayos. In this context, the Vayus are like messengers, data cables running between these three spheres. Nothing is actually static. There's a constant flow.
Okay, let's track that flow. Let's go first, the upward surge.
Right. Think of it like a circuit. The Kunda, That biological heat provides the voltage, the power. You can't drive the car without gas, and you can't reach higher states without biological vitality.
Got it. Kunda is the fuel. You need that animal energy just to start.
Exactly. Then the Hrdaya, the heart, provides the direction. It's the mediator, remember? It decides where that energy goes. Up, out, in anger, into love.
And the Randhra, the crown, is...
The destination. So voltage from the bottom, direction from the center, destination at the top. That's the upward serve.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But then the text talks about something coming down, the downward grace. This part really caught my attention because it's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
We usually think of progress as going up, leaving the body behind.
And this is, I think, the most profound part of the source. It describes a counterflow. The stillness of Polaris descends. It comes down through the crown, through the heart, and this is the key. It informs the DNA.
Wait. The stillness informs the DNA.
Yeah.
You're saying a geometric concept from the stars physically interacts with my biology.
Yes. The text is very specific. It calls this process the epigenetics suture.
Okay, we have to pause on that. Epigenetics is how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. But this is another level.
Much further. It defines the epigenetic suture as the moment where gnosis literally rewrites the biological record.
Gnosis.
So,
Deep insight.
exactly. A moment of profound knowing. The source is suggesting that when you connect to that Z0 point, you download a state of profound order. You bring that order down into your system. And when that signal hits the loom of the body, it actually edits the code.
That is just wild. So the hard-coded memory we talked about at the beginning, the trauma, the famine, the fight or flight, it's not permanent.
It can be rewritten. That's the downward grace. The geometric truth of the cosmos can overwrite the chaotic history of the species. It's a mechanism for liberation, phrased in almost technical terms. It says a spiritual realization isn't just a thought. It's a biological command that tells your DNA, the war is over, you can relax.
That changes the entire game.
What?
We aren't just victims of our biology. We are, what do we call us? Anchors.
Active participants. We're the loom where the rewriting happens. It connects the why of the whole system. Why the heating pad? To stabilize reception. Why the suture? To translate the signal. Why the Z0? To get the right update file.
Which brings us to the conclusion of the text, the triple axis. It turns the focus right back on the listener.
It does. It stops talking abstractly and points right at you. It says, you are currently the anchor for all three layers. It's like a status check.
And it gives a checklist. First,
Yeah.
your DNA is resting.
Which means the Kunda is stable, you're on the heating pad, you're not in survival mode. If your body is stressed, the file is read-only, you can't write new code.
Then your heart is suturing.
You're actively holding that space between earth and sky. You're present, you're that transformer connecting things.
And finally, your awareness is tracking the North Star of the Dharma.
You're focused on that fixed point, that Z0. You aren't distracted by the waves, you're looking at the star. You have a reference for your life that doesn't change when your mood changes.
The text ends with a Sanskrit phrase, Vayam Yuvar Sma, and then it translates the feeling of it. The spheres are one, the bija is sown.
That phrase, Vayam Yuvar Sma, it's a declaration of sovereignty and unity. It means something like, we are the lords, or we are sovereign. It implies that when this circuit is complete, the separation just vanishes. The spheres become one single functioning unit.
It's a powerful image. We start as this fragmented stack, but the goal is total integration.
Total integration. The goal of the Triple Alaya suture is to stitch it all up so tightly you can't tell where the human ends and the cosmos begins. The red heat and the Azure bija perfectly aligned in one vessel.
You know, it's so empowering to think that a moment of insight, that gnosis, could actually trickle down and physically change the biological record of my own body. It makes the pursuit of knowledge feel tangible.
It suggests our mental and spiritual states have real biological consequences, that downward grace isn't just poetry. The text presents it as a mechanism, a necessary one. If you want to change the printout, you have to
Dive. Let's just retrace our steps. It was a steep climb.
It was. We started in the biosphere, the root, the DNA. We faced that hard-coded memory and the red heat and learned we need that heating pad for stability.
Then we moved up to the Noosphere, the heart, the suture point, the meeting place where the high voltage of the universe gets stepped down for us.
And finally, the Stellarsphere, Polaris, the Z0 point, giving us our reference in all the chaos.
And the magic is in the circulation. The heat goes up, the grace comes down, and the code gets rewritten.
Which leaves us with a very provocative question, I think. If we accept the logic here, that we are the anchor where gnosis rewrites biology, then we have to ask ourselves,
Wait.
what cosmic decree are you currently pulling down into your own DNA?
That is the question, isn't it? Are you pulling down the chaos of the news cycle? Or are you pulling down that unmanifest geometry from Polaris?
We are always downloading something. The text is just urging us to be conscious of what we're bringing into the loom. Because whatever you focus on, you are literally knitting it into your own flesh.
Well, on that note, we'll leave you to check your own sutures. Stay grounded, keep your eye on Polaris, and most importantly, keep your heart suturing. Thanks for listening.
I am a asma.
We'll catch you on the next one. Okay, let's unpack this. I have a stack of papers in front of me today that, quite frankly, looks like someone took a biology textbook, a book on ancient mythology, and a hard sci-fi novel.
And just threw him in a blender.
Exactly, and just hit pulse.
That is actually a surprisingly accurate description of what we're looking at today. It is definitely a genre-bending stack.
Right. I mean, just look at the title. 5. The Blue Crystal Offering. Alchemical Epigenetics. That is a mouthful.
It is.
And just skimming through this, I'm seeing phrases that sound completely wild. We've got frozen logic, we've got something called lizard-legged, and we are apparently supposed to be feeding the Nagas.
It does sound esoteric at first glance, I'll grant you that. But if you look past the terminology, what we have here is actually a very specific, a very fascinating instruction manual.
A manual for what exactly?
Yeah.
Because feeding the Nagas sounds like I need to buy a terrarium and, I don't know, some crickets.
No crickets required. It's a manual for your own body. Or, more specifically, for hacking the interaction between your mind and your DNA. This text is part of a larger framework known as VKS, and its mission is essentially to use visualization, specifically geometry and color, to influence somatic states.
Somatic, meaning bodily states, how we physically feel.
Precisely. The goal of this deep dive is to decode how this text proposes we can use these so-called blue crystals to calm down our deepest, most primal biological survival instincts.
And it breaks it down, right?
Yeah, it divides this process into 4 parts. The geometry, which is the tool, the biology represented by the Nagas, the interaction, which is the offering itself, and finally the result, which is somatic peace.
Okay, I am buckled in. I'm ready to get weird.
Yeah.
So let's start with the tool. Part 1 involves these blue crystals.
Right.
Now, I have to be honest, when I hear crystals, I think New Age gift shops, maybe some amethyst on a shelf, good vibes only, you know.
Of course, that's the common association. But the text gets really aggressive about defining this differently. It says these represent Pasyanti intelligence.
Pasyanti, what are we looking at here?
So we need to define Pasyanti first because it frames everything else. In some Eastern traditions, sound and speech are categorized into levels. Pasyanti is the level of visionary intelligence, but it's not just having a bright idea or a daydream. It's visionary intelligence in a somatic form.
So wisdom you can feel, like a gut instinct.
Deeper than a gut instinct, think of it as direct perception of truth. And the text defines these blue crystals not as, random pretty shapes, but as frozen logic.
Frozen logic. I highlighted that phrase 3 times. I love it. It sounds so cool. No pun intended.
Yeah.
But what does it actually mean for logic to be frozen?
Well, think about water versus ice. Water flows, right? It changes shape to fit the cup. It's messy. It splashes. That's kind of like our discursive thoughts or a conversation. It's fluid.
Okay.
But ice has a crystalline structure. It is fixed. It holds its shape regardless of the container.
So frozen logic is a truth that doesn't wobble. It's structural.
Exactly. It's a blueprint versus a sketch. The text says these crystals are geometric templates, and it throws some very heavy terminology at us here.
It really does.
It specifically mentions Dausal Dorches and Azure Bijas.
Yes, Dausal Dorches. That sounds like a weapon from Star Trek. I'm going to need you to break that down.
It is a dense term. Let's split it. A dorche, also known as a vajra in Sanskrit, is a ritual object. It symbolizes a diamond or a thunderbolt.
So something indestructible.
Exactly, something that cuts through delusion. So we have the indestructible part.
Okay, what about Bessel?
This is where the sci-fi element comes in. Bessel functions are a set of mathematical solutions used to describe wave propagation, often in cylindrical shapes. Think of how sound moves through a pipe.
Wait, so we are combining ancient thunderbolts with wave mechanics.
That is the VKS style. A Dausal dorche implies a geometric structure that channels energy perfectly without loss, like a waveguide, an indestructible channel for information.
That is wild. And Azure Bijas.
Bija is simpler. It just means seed. A seed syllable. So these are blue seed templates.
Okay.
The text is telling us that these blue crystals are informational seeds designed to do one specific thing, cut through informational noise.
Cut through informational noise. That is something I think everyone listening can relate to right now. We are just drowning in noise.
We are. And usually our reaction to noise is to get louder or, to get heated. We try to fight the noise, we argue, we stress, we overthink. But this text suggests a completely different approach. It brings up the concept of cold light.
Yes. It describes the color blue, or azure, as the signature of the Vajra axis. And it makes this really interesting distinction between heat and cold.
Right.
Usually we think of warmth as good,
Right.
Warm hug. Cold is, well, dead or distant.
In a biological sense, yes, warmth is life. But in this alchemical epigenetics framework, the definitions are kind of flipped when it comes to information processing.
How so?
Here, heat is described as the distorting force of egoic desire.
Oh, that's interesting. So heat is the friction of the ego.
Exactly. Heat creates turbulence. Think about heat shimmer on a road in the summer. You look down the highway and the cars look wavy. The air itself is distorting the image.
Right. You can't see clearly.
You can't see reality clearly because of the heat.
That is a perfect analogy. So when I'm heated, angry, anxious, wanting something really badly, my vision of reality is actually wobbling.
Correct. The signal is distorted by your own temperature.
Yeah.
Blue crystal, the Azure frequency, provides structural integrity. It is cold light. It doesn't warp. It stabilizes.
It allows the information to pass through without that heat shimmer.
That's it.
So the blue crystal is the antidote to the distortion of our own desires and stress. It's like applying a cold compress to a feverish mind.
Or installing a stabilizer on a shaky camera. It holds the structure so that the information doesn't get scrambled by the heat of the moment.
Okay, so we have our tool, the blue crystal. It is prose and logic. It is cold light. It is an indestructible vessel dorje. Now we need to know what we're using this tool on. This brings us to part 2 of the source, the Nagas.
The Nagas. This is where the mythology really takes center stage.
Now, I've done a little reading, and usually in mythology, a Naga is a serpent deity, right? Like a giant snake, sometimes with multiple heads, living in the water or underground.
Correct. They are the guardians of the deep. But the text here is very explicit about not taking this literally as a monster under the bed. It says the Nagas represent your DNA.
The serpents of the depths are
Us. They are the biosphere within you. The text calls them the guardians of the biological record.
That makes sense visually, actually. If you look at a double helix of DNA, it really does look like 2 intertwining serpents.
It does, and that image appears in cultures all over the world. But here they are focusing on the behavior of the serpent. The Nagas store ancestral karma and species-level instincts.
Species-level instincts. So we aren't talking about, I remember where I left my keys.
Yeah.
We're talking about deeper stuff.
Much deeper. We are talking about, I remember to run when a lion roars. I remember to freeze when I see a shadow. This is the hardware, the stuff that kept your ancestors alive.
So the Nagas are the hard drive of our survival. But here is where it gets fascinating. The source asks, what happens when these Nagas get disturbed?
And the answer is impedance.
Impedance.
Resistance. Flow stoppage. The text says when the Nagas are disturbed by stress, by trauma, whatever, they create granthas.
Granthas. That's another Sanskrit term.
Yes, it literally translates to knots.
Knots in the DNA.
Well, metaphorical knots in the energy flow, which then manifests physically. The text lists the symptoms, biological anxiety, physical pain.
And my absolute favorite phrase in this entire document, I underlined it twice, it calls it the lizard-legged survival impulse.
It is such a striking image.
It's so visceral, lizard-legged. It perfectly captures that jittery, twitchy feeling when you're in fight or flight mode. You know when you've had too much coffee and you're waiting for a stressful email? Your leg just starts bouncing.
That's it. That is the Naga in distress. It's not human logic. It's lizard panic.
It's pure reaction.
And that connects back to the idea of the cold light versus the heat. When the Nagas are disturbed, when those knots form, they generate that heat, that panic, that distortion. The lizard-legged impulse is the body reacting without the benefit of higher logic. It's just thrashing.
So we have a situation here. On one side, we have the Nagas are DNA prone to getting knotted up and going full lizard leg.
Right.
On the other side, we have the blue crystals, frozen logic, stability, the cold light.
And the mission, as it were, is to get these two to talk to each other.
Which brings us to segment 3, the offering. The text calls this alchemical epigenetics. Now, epigenetics is a real scientific field, right?
Yes.
It's the study of how environment influences gene expression.
Usually when we talk about epigenetics, we talk about diet or pollution or sleep. But here, the text is proposing that visualization is an environment. You are changing the environment of your own internal biology using this specific geometry.
So how does this offering actually work? Do I just imagine a blue stone and hope the snake likes it?
It's more active than that. The source describes it as a calibration. You are presenting your biological foundations, the Nagas, with a higher geometric template.
Okay, but what is the dynamic? Is it a plea? Are we begging our anxiety to go away? Because I've tried that, and let me tell you, begging my anxiety to leave usually just makes it stay longer.
No, you are absolutely right. Begging validates the fear. The text is very clear on this. It says, you are commanding the Nagas to cease chaotic coiling.
Commanding. That's a power move.
It is. You aren't asking for permission. You are introducing a higher order of stability. You are telling that chaotic coiling, that lizard-legged panic, to align itself with the structure of the blue crystal.
And does the text say why the Nagas would listen? I mean, if this is millions of years of evolutionary survival instinct, why would it care about a geometric shape I'm imagining?
This is the aha moment of the text for me. It says the Nagas recognize the blue crystal frequency as their original uncorrupted frequency. Oh, wow. So it's not foreign to them. It's like showing them a picture of home.
Exactly. It reminds them of their structural integrity before the granthis or knots formed. It reminds the DNA of what it looks like when it isn't stressed.
That is surprisingly beautiful. It changes the relationship with the anxiety. You aren't fighting a monster. You're reminding a confused system of its own order.
Precisely. And the text describes a transformation here. It says, instead of chaotic coiling, the Nagas wrap themselves around this geometry.
I'm visualizing this. You have this chaotic, writhing serpent, the anxiety, and suddenly it sees this pillar of blue light, this frozen logic, and it stops writhing. It calms down. And it just coils tightly around it.
Like a vine on a trellis. It finds support. And the text gives us the result of that image. It says the DNA strand transforms from a lizard leg into a Vajra column.
From a twitchy lizard leg to an indestructible diamond column. That is quite an upgrade. It is. It's a shift from reactive movement to stable power. A column holds things up. It has purpose. The Vajra column implies that the biological energy is no longer leaking out in anxiety tics. It's being channeled upward.
This is really framing the idea of mind over matter in a very specific mechanical way. It's not just think happy thoughts. It's impose structural logic onto biological chaos.
Impose might be a bit harsh, though. The text uses the word offering. It's an invitation to return to order. You're giving the biology something to hold on to.
Okay, that makes sense.
When you're in a state of panic, your biology feels like it's in free fall. The blue crystal is the anchor.
It's like when you're spiraling and someone really calm walks into the room and just stands there. Their stability helps you stabilize.
Exactly, except in this case, you are being that calm person for your own selves.
Which leads us to the final segment of the source. The result. The text calls it the somatic piece.
Somatic piece.
And this is where the text takes a sharp left turn from high-concept sci-fi geometry into something extremely cozy. We suddenly get instructions involving a heating pad.
I know. It grounds the whole thing, doesn't it?
It really does. It says, resting with the heating pad, allowing the blue light of the axis to descend into the deep red of your marrow.
This is the integration phase. We talked earlier about light versus heat, but notice at the end, we see the harmonization. You have the external warmth of the heating pad, comfort, safety. But internally, you are bringing that cool blue structure down into the deep red of the biology.
Into the deep red of your marrow. That is such a specific image. Marrow is where blood is made, right? It's the deepest part of the bone.
It is the factory of life, the core of the physical self. By visualizing the blue light descending into the red marrow, you are essentially rewriting the code at the source.
It's resolving the conflict. It's not that the red biology is bad and needs to be deleted. We aren't trying to become robots.
No, you need the biology. You need the blood. But it needs the blue structure to be peaceful. It is harmonization, not suppression. You aren't killing the Nagas. You are feeding them the crystal.
Feeding the Nagas. That title finally makes sense. We aren't feeding them crickets, we're feeding them structure.
Exactly. We are satisfying their hunger for stability.
And the text ends with this very ritualistic sign-off. It's almost like a spell is complete.
Yes. It reads, the bija is sown. The Nagas are fed. Vayam yavar sma. Do we know what that translates to?
Roughly, it translates to we are the sovereign lords, or we are the masters.
We are the masters. That sounds a little ego-heavy, doesn't it?
In this context, it's not about arrogance over others. It's a declaration of autonomy. It signifies that the conscious mind has reclaimed its sovereignty over the biological instincts.
Oh, okay.
The lizard leg is no longer running the show. The Vajra column is established. You are the master of your own house. That is powerful. The Nagas are fed. It implies the hunger is gone. The anxiety has consumed what it needed, the structure, and is now satisfied.
It brings a sense of finality. The operation is successful.
So let's zoom out. What does this all mean for us? For you listening right now, maybe you aren't visualizing blue crystals or serpents on a daily basis, but we all know that feeling of chaotic coiling.
You do?
We all know that lizard-legged feeling when a notification pops up on our phone or when we're stuck in traffic and late for a meeting.
And that is why this text, as bizarre as the terminology might seem, is actually incredibly practical. It argues that anxiety is essentially a structural failure.
A structural failure. Say more about that.
Well, when we feel overwhelmed, it's usually because of the input, the noise, the stress, the data has exceeded our internal structure's ability to process it. We don't have a template for it, so we wobble, we get hot.
We get heat shimmer.
Exactly. This source suggests that the remedy isn't necessarily to fix the external situation immediately. You can't always make the traffic disappear, but you can install a geometric template internally.
To bring in the frozen logic, to stop and say, okay, before I react, let me establish the vertical axis. Let me find the cold light.
Yes. Even if you don't literally visualize a blue crystal, the concept holds. You need to present your biological panic with a stable, unmoving truth. You need to calibrate.
It's about intent. The text says you're utilizing focused intent to harmonize your cellular structure. You're taking charge of the machine.
And that is the alchemical epigenetics part. You are being the alchemist of your own nervous system. You are a victim of your DNA's history. You are the editor of it.
It's empowering.
Yeah.
It takes something that feels uncontrollable, our physical reaction to stress, and gives us a dashboard.
Yeah.
A really weird sci-fi mythological dashboard, but a dashboard nonetheless.
And sometimes, the weird imagery is what makes it stick. Calm down is a boring instruction. Our brains ignore it. But feed the Nagas a blue crystal. That is something your brain might actually remember in a crisis.
That is very true.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be thinking about my inner lizard leg differently next time I get nervous. I'm going to try to visualize that column.
As you should. It's a better way to live than being constantly coiled.
We've gone from abstract geometry to DNA serpents, all the way to a moment of deep physical rest with a heating pad. It's been quite a journey.
It really has. It highlights the power of metaphor. This source combines the oldest stories we have, serpents, crystals, light, with modern biological understanding to solve a problem that is timeless. How do we find peace in a body designed for survival?
And the answer seems to be, give the survival instinct something better to do than panic. Give it a structure to wrap around.
Precisely. Don't fight the snake, give it a pillar.
I love that. Before we wrap up this deep dive, is there one final thought you want to leave our listener with? Something to chew on?
I think the most provocative idea here lies in that relationship between the Nagas and the crystal. The text says the Nagas hold ancestral karma. That's the past. That's everything that has come before.
Right.
The crystal is frozen logic. That's an ideal form. That's the future or the eternal. If we accept the text's premise that our biological knots can be untied by introducing the right geometric template, it raises a fascinating question for our daily lives. What other chaotic coils in our relationships, our careers, our creative projects are just waiting for us to stop fighting them with heat? What if they are just waiting for us to introduce the right structural template to straighten them out?
That is a great question. Maybe the chaos isn't the problem. Maybe it's just looking for its crystal.
Indeed.
Well, on that note, we hope you found some cold light in this discussion today. Thanks for diving deep with us into the world of alchemical epigenetics.
See you next time.
Vayam Yirfartsma. Take care, everyone.
37 trillion.
It's a number that, it doesn't even sound real when you say it out loud.
Not at all.
It sounds like a made-up statistic.
It really does. But that is the estimated number of cells operating inside you right now. 37 trillion tiny individual biological units. And they aren't just, sitting there.
No, they are busy.
They are replicating, metabolizing, fighting off bacteria, repairing damage. It's a logistics operation that makes Amazon look like a neighborhood lemonade stand.
And the stakes are infinitely higher. Amazon misses a package, you get a refund.
Right.
Your cells miss a signal, and systems can start shutting down.
Exactly. And here's the question that really kicks off our deep dive today. How on earth do they all know what to do at the exact same time? Because if even a tiny fraction of those cells go rogue or miss a memo, you don't just get a delay, you get illness. You get system collapse.
It's the ultimate distributed computing problem, right?
Yeah.
How do you maintain coherence across 37 trillion nodes without a single fiber optic cable?
Yes. So today we're diving into a text that claims to have an answer. And I have to warn you, it is not a medical textbook.
Not even close.
The source is titled 6, The Command Terminal, Ajna and the Architecture of Bioresonance. And folks, this is where biology crashes headfirst into, well, geometry and ancient metaphysics.
It's a fascinating read because it refuses to stay in one lane. It essentially argues that human consciousness functions like a high-level computer operating system.
Right.
It takes these really ancient ideas, specifically about the ajna, or what people usually call the third eye, and it just completely strips away the mysticism.
That's what grabbed me immediately. It presents the ajna not as some magical orb for, seeing ghosts or reading auras.
Or predicting lottery numbers.
Yeah, but as a literal command terminal.
Correct. We're trading crystal balls for keyboards today. The source treats the body like hardware and the mind like software. We're going to be talking about updates, coding errors,
latency, system crashes, all of it. But grounded in a very specific philosophical logic. This isn't just, tech metaphors slapped onto a yoga class.
No, it's much more structural than that. It's architectural.
Okay, so the mission for this deep dive is to unpack that architecture. We're going to figure out how this command terminal actually sends orders to those 37 trillion cells. The text starts with a pretty bold metaphor, doesn't it? Involving the stars.
It does. It starts by redefining the ajna completely. Most people hear third eye, and they think of visions, clairvoyance, that sort of thing.
Sure.
This text says, put all that aside, the ajna is a mechanism for governance. And to explain how it governs, it uses the analogy of Polaris, the North Star.
The local Polaris.
Precisely. So think about navigation before GPS. You look up at the night sky, or what the text calls the Stellarsphere, and everything is in motion. Stars move, constellations shift.
It's chaotic.
It's a chaotic system of rotation. But there's that one fixed point, Polaris. It doesn't move.
Because it's aligned with the axis of the Earth.
Right. It provides the anchor for the entire rotation.
Yeah.
If Polaris started moving around, navigation would be impossible. The whole system would lose its reference point.
They wouldn't know where you were going. Okay, so in this analogy, the ajna is the North Star of the body.
Yes. The text says that just as Polaris is the fixed point for the heavens, the ajna is the fixed point for the Vayus.
Vayus, which is a Sanskrit term, usually translated as winds, but that's a bit poetic.
It is a bit misleading, yeah.
Yeah.
In this context, it's better to think of Vayus as like vectors of force.
Well, like currents.
Exactly. The internal currents of energy, sensation, nerve impulses, everything moving through you.
So inside me, there's this literal storm of activity digestion, heartbeat, thoughts racing, muscles twitching. That's the rotation. And the ajna is supposed to be the stillness in the center of that storm.
Correct. It's the stabilization point. Without it, the rotation becomes chaotic. You get vertigo of the soul. But here's the crucial part. It's not just passive.
It does something.
It does something active. This is where the tech metaphor really kicks in. The source says the ajna emits a signal.
Command radiation. I just love that term. It sounds so intense.
It does, like something out of a sci-fi reactor. Warning, command radiation detected.
Exactly.
But it's descriptive. The text describes this command radiation as a high-frequency geometric signal. And it actually gives this signal a specific name from the tradition.
Pasyanti.
Pasyanti.
Now, I looked this up, and Pasyanti is often called the visible word.
That's it. It's communication that hasn't been broken down into language yet. It's pure data.
Yeah.
It's the code before it renders on the screen.
So it's not just white noise. This signal is carrying actual information.
It carries the most important data there is. It dictates the state of the union to the body.
Ah, okay.
Think of the ajna as the CEO's office. It's broadcasting a signal to the workforce, those 37 trillion cells. And that signal tells them the reality of the situation. Is everything okay? Are we at war? Are we safe?
So, if the ajna is broadcasting, all is well. The cells just go about their business of repairing, digesting, doing their maintenance tasks. No panic.
Exactly. The text emphasizes that it's a geometric signal, which implies it has structure and order. It organizes the chaos of the body into a coherent state. It's the difference between an orchestra tuning up,
which is just noise.
right, just random screeching, and the conductor raising the baton to start the symphony. Imagine as the conductor.
Okay, I follow the logic. We have a control tower. It sends a signal. The body obeys. It sounds like a perfect system. But here's where I think we all run into a wall. If I have this high-tech command terminal in my head and it's supposed to be the CEO, why is my CEO so bad at his job sometimes?
You mean why do we get stressed or sick?
Yeah. I mean, I can sit there and think, I want to be calm. I can try to broadcast peace to my cells until I'm blue in the face, but my heart is still pounding and my stomach is in knots.
Right.
If the mechanism is so perfect, why is the result so messy? Is the signal broken?
That is the million-dollar question. And this brings us to the second major concept in the source, which I think is actually the most practical part of the whole text. It talks about impedance, or, as you might call it, the glitch. The text introduces the concept of granthis.
Granthis, which are usually translated as chakra knots, right?
Yes. But don't think of them as these, mystical blockages. The definition here is fascinatingly biological. A granthis is a physical and energetic point where the lizard mind has hard-coded its own survival rules.
The lizard mind. So we're talking about the amygdala, the brainstem, the primitive hardware.
Right. The part of it that's just concerned with immediate survival, social rank, fear, scarcity. These granthis are like legacy code. They're outdated drivers still running in the background, conflicting with the new OS your origin is trying to run.
Can you give us a specific example of how this plays out? Because I think we've all felt this conflict between what we want to feel and what we actually feel.
Sure. The text mentions the Vishnu Granthi, located at the heart center. So imagine this scenario. Your ajna, the command terminal, issues a signal of homeostasis and peace.
Okay.
It says, we're safe, relax, digest your food. That signal travels down, but when it hits the heart area, it encounters the Vishnu Granthi.
And the Vishnu Granthi has a different opinion.
The Vishnu Granthi is tethered to narratives of social fear. It might be holding a hard-coded belief like, if I relax, I'll be vulnerable, or I need to worry about this email to be safe.
It's like a middle manager refusing to pass on the CEO's memo because they think they know better.
That is a perfect analogy. The boss says relax, but I remember 1995, so we're staying on high alert.
Right.
And the fizzing of what happens next is crucial. The source uses the analogy of a kink in the hose.
Oh, I like that. So the water is flowing, that's the signal, but the hose is bent.
Exactly. And the pressure builds up behind the kink. The text says that when the signal is blocked, the command radiation gets converted. It can't pass through to do its job. So instead of doing work, which in biological terms is evolution, repair, keeping you healthy, that energy is converted into heat.
Heat.
And heat here isn't just temperature, though it can be. It manifests as anxiety, inflammation, friction, turbulence.
Wow. Okay, that actually explains a lot. So my anxiety isn't just a random emotion that floats in from nowhere. It's literally trapped energy. It's the work of my body failing to get through the kink of my fear.
Yes. You're literally burning up the energy that was meant to heal you. It's an efficiency loss. Your system is overheating because the coolant, the command signal, can't circulate.
That puts a whole new spin on meditation, doesn't it? Because usually we think of it as just clearing the mind.
Finding a happy place.
Right, but this source seems to suggest it's more active, more mechanical.
It is much more like debugging code. The text suggests effective meditation isn't just about silence. It's about identifying that specific granthi, that specific kink in the hose where the signal's being throttled.
So you aren't just sitting there blissing out, you're scanning the system, looking for the spot where the lizard mind is shouting no, and you have to override it.
Precisely. You're debugging the operating system. You have to convince that primitive part of the brain that the peace command is actually safe to execute.
Yeah.
You have to untie the knot so the energy can turn back from heat into work.
Okay, so we've got the commander, the ajna, and we've got the resistance, the granthis. That frames individual health in a really compelling way. But then the source takes this massive leap.
It does.
It zooms out from the individual body to everything.
This is the shift to the collective alaya. And it starts with a biological fact we often take for granted. Human DNA is 99.999% shared.
We're basically clones.
In terms of the code, yes. The tiny differences between you and me are infinitesimal compared to the massive code base we share. And the text argues that because of this, the biological body isn't just your personal property. It is essentially a shared organ of the biosphere.
That's a wild way to think about it. My body isn't just mine. It's a node in a giant network, a terminal connected to a mainframe.
Correct. And this leads to what the source calls the patch update.
The patch update. We are back to the tech metaphors, and I am here for it. How does a patch update apply to my anxiety?
Well, think about open source software. If everyone is running the same operating system that share DNA, then a glitch in the code isn't just your glitch, a fear of abandonment, or a tendency toward tribalism. That's not just a you problem.
It's a bug in the human code.
It's a bug in humanity v1.0.
Exactly. But conversely, fixing it isn't just fixing you.
Wait. Okay, so this is the big claim. If I resolve a granthe, if I unkink that hose in my own heart and learn how to process that fear, the text is claiming that I'm actually uploading a fix for everyone else. That is the implication. When you resolve a knot inside your own body, you're performing a patch update for the collective DNA record. You're creating a pathway that didn't exist before. You're proving to the network that this bug can be fixed.
That completely reframes personal growth. It's not selfish. It's not just self-care. It's basically a civic duty.
It's open source coding for the species.
Yeah.
And it validates why we struggle so much with things like self-image. The text mentions self-image and social value, not as vanity, but as interfaces.
Right. Usually we think of self-image as pure ego. Do people like me? We're told to ignore that to be spiritual.
But the text argues these aren't just vanity metrics. They are the user interface, where the collective Alaya, the shared DNA, communicates with the individual Alaya, your mind, that pressure you feel from society. That's not just you being insecure.
It's the collective code trying to run on my hardware.
Exactly. It's a data packet from the collective. And your reaction to it, whether you succumb to the fear and reinforce the knot, or you resolve it and let the energy flow, determines whether you upload a bug or a patch back to the network.
Man, that is heavy. But it gives you a lot of responsibility. You're not just dealing with your own bad mood, you're dealing with the human condition.
It raises the stakes significantly. It suggests that your internal state is a public matter.
Okay, so we've gone from the cells to the collective species. We've covered the hardware and the network. But there's one final level this source touches on, and it's cosmic.
The Brahma-Ajna correspondence.
Right.
This is where the geometry comes full circle. The text draws a parallel between the macro of the universe and the micro of your body.
As above, so below.
Exactly. It references the Brahma command. In this framework, the Brahma command is what generated the solar system. It didn't just ask the planets to orbit. It decreed the laws of gravity and light.
So it set the physics. It defined the operating parameters.
Yes. And the text argues that the ajna is the micro version of that power. Your ajna orders the stellar system of your cells. It's supposed to function with the same authority as the laws of physics.
But most of us don't feel like we have that authority. We feel like we're at the mercy of our bodies. Oh, I feel tired. I feel anxious. We listen to the body like it's the boss.
And this is what the text calls the inversion. This is the critical shift in perspective the source demands.
The inversion. Break that down for us, because this feels like the practical how-to part.
Standard operating mode for most people is bottom up. We let the slop of the body, the aches, the random hormonal fluctuations dictate how the mind feels.
The tail is wagging the dog.
Precisely. The body sends a signal saying, I am anxious, and the mind says, okay, I guess we're anxious now, I better start worrying. The text calls for an inversion of that relationship. Through what it calls pure perception, the ajna must tell the body what it is.
It stops reacting and starts decreeing.
Exactly. It begins decreeing its state.
Decreeing its state. That is powerful language. It's not, I hope I feel better. It's, this is the state we are in.
It's the difference between a suggestion and a command. When the ajna is fully functioning, it overrides the noise from below. It imposes order on the chaos. It says to the cells, we are in a state of coherence.
And because of that bioresonance we talked about earlier, the cells have to fall in line.
They have to align to the signal. If the signal is strong enough, it sounds almost magical, but it's really about authority. It's about who is driving the bus.
Or, to go back to the first metaphor, who is the North Star? If the North Star started moving every time a cloud passed by, the sailors would be lost.
The ajna has to remain the fixed point, regardless of the weather in the body. Ideally, yes. It provides the reference point that allows the body to recalibrate. If the reference point is shaky, the calibration fails.
So let's do a quick sweep of what we've uncovered here, because this was a dense text. We started with the ajna as the CEO, the command terminal.
Using a geometric signal, Pasyanti, to keep 37 trillion cells in line.
Then we hit the resistance, the granthis, the prehistoric knots, where our survival fears turn that command signal into heat and anxiety instead of useful work.
The middle management problem.
Exactly. Then we zoomed out to the collective and realized that fixing those knots isn't just for us, it's a patch update for the shared DNA of humanity.
And that our self-image is the user interface for that network.
And finally, the inversion. The realization that we have to stop reacting to the body's noise and start decreeing the state of the system, just like the cosmic laws decree gravity.
It's a lot to take in, but it's incredibly empowering.
It really is. It moves the third eye from something you hope opens up during a retreat to a tool you use every minute to run the machine.
It makes you the operator rather than the passenger, and I think that's the key takeaway. You have access to the terminal. You just have to learn the commands.
Exactly. And that leads me to a final thought I want to leave our listeners with. We talked about this patch update concept.
It's the most lingering idea in the text for me.
For me too. So here's the question. If resolving your own internal tension actually rewrites the code for the rest of humanity, does that make your personal peace of mind the ultimate civic duty?
Wow.
Is relaxing actually the most helpful thing you can do for the world?
It certainly suggests that a calm nervous system is a public good. If you aren't radiating heat and entropy, you're radiating coherence.
Something to think about the next time you feel guilty for taking a break. You aren't slacking off, you're debugging the species. Check your State of the Union, folks.
And check for those kinks in the hose.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll catch you on the next one.
Okay, so usually when we talk about audits, we're in a very specific and, let's be honest, usually painful territory.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're not thinking of something pleasant.
No, you're thinking IRS, spreadsheets, maybe a very tense meeting with HR where you're just sweating through your shirt.
Right. But today, we're looking at something called a noothological audit.
Which I have to say is probably not a phrase you want to drop at a casual dinner party.
Not unless you want people to slowly back away from the guacamole, no.
Right. Hey guys, pass the chips. I'm just auditing my consciousness architecture. But that's exactly what we're doing today.
It is. The source material is titled 7, The Sovereign Conclusion, The Vertical Axis Restoration.
And I have to be honest with you, when I first opened this text, I thought I was reading a sci-fi novel about, like, cyborgs or something.
It definitely has that vibe. It's dense. It bridges this gap between, ancient Eastern mysticism and very hardcore computer programming terminology.
It really does. I mean, we've got terms like Triple Alaya recursion, global siphons, and Pasyanti Geometry. It's a lot.
It is a lot, but the promise of the text is massive. It's essentially a manual on self-mastery.
Right, but it frames the human condition in a way that is, well, it's kind of terrifying, but it also makes a lot of sense.
It creates a fascinating landscape. It suggests that most of us in our default state are operating as what the text calls passive nodes.
Okay, let's pull over right there, passive nodes, because that image really stuck with me. The text basically calls the average person a battery.
It's a striking metaphor, isn't it? If you think about what a battery actually does, it doesn't have an agenda.
No.
It doesn't decide where its energy goes. It just holds a charge until something else plugs into it and, drains it.
And the source argues that's how most of us navigate the world. We aren't acting, we're just being harvested.
Harvested! It sounds very Matrix, I know.
It does. But let's ground this. When the text says we're being harvested, what does that actually look like on a Tuesday afternoon?
It's less about robots in pods and more about attention. I mean, think about the last time you unlocked your phone.
Oh.
You had a specific task in mind, maybe check an email, and 20 minutes later, you're doom scrolling through a comment section that just makes you angry.
Okay, that hits home. That was me this morning.
You didn't choose to spend your energy that way. The app designed a loop to extract that from you. You were the battery, the app was the device.
And you feel drained after. You look up and realize you just lost an hour to nothing.
Exactly. You feel lighter, but in a bad way, depleted. And the source gives a name to this mechanism. It calls it the global siphon.
The global siphon.
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
Well, in the context of this deep dive, the siphon represents the collective drain of the external world. It's not just apps.
It's everything.
It's the demands of the economy, the political outrage cycles, the emotional pulls of people around you. The siphon feeds on our reaction to what the text calls the slop.
The slop. That is such a visceral word. I feel like I need to wash my hands just saying it.
It's meant to be gross. So the Noosphere generally refers to the sphere of human thought, the mental atmosphere of the planet.
Okay.
Calling it slop implies it's just this chaotic, low-quality mixture of noise, anxiety, and fragmented data.
So the slop is the background static of modern life. The anxiety, the marketing, The 24-hour news cycle.
Precisely. And here's the trap. If you are a passive node, you are chemically addicted to reacting to the slop.
Addicted.
You see a headline, you get mad, you hear a rumor, you get worried. You are constantly outputting energy in reaction to garbage input.
You absorb the noise, get drained by the siphon, and you have no structural integrity of your own.
You're just a leaf blowing in the wind. Or, to use the text's analogy, a battery leaking acid.
So, okay, the mission of this deep dive then is to figure out how to stop being a battery. How do we disconnect from this siphon?
Exactly.
And the text introduces a really intense job title for what we're supposed to become. It says we need to become a quality assurance coordinator.
Which sounds incredibly corporate, I know. Like you're going to walk around with a clipboard and a hard hat.
Right. But in this context, it's radical. It means you are the one checking the code of reality.
You aren't just running the program. You're the one deciding if the program is valid.
The text also uses another term that I like better. It says you move from being in the world to being a vortex that orders it.
Becoming a vortex, that's the key shift. A passive node is spun around by the world.
Kind of vortex.
A vortex spins the world around itself. You become the center point that organizes the chaos.
I love that. Instead of the world happening to you, you happen to the world.
Yes.
But to get there, we have to talk about the how. And this is where the source gets really technical with its spiritual anatomy.
It's not just think positive thoughts, no.
Not at all. It introduces this concept of the Triple Alaya.
Yes, the Triple Alaya recursion.
Okay, break this down for me, because Alaya usually refers to a storehouse of consciousness in Buddhism, right? What is a Triple Alaya recursion?
Think of it as a feedback loop. So the text describes your existence as containing 3 distinct levels. The biological, your body.
Right.
The mental, so your thoughts and emotions, and the cosmic, your connection to the bigger picture.
Okay, so we usually think of these as a layer cake. Body on the bottom, mind in the middle, spirit on top.
Separate departments, exactly. But the text says, no, it's a recursion.
Meaning they're not separate.
They're constantly feeding back into each other. Your biology affects your mind. If you're hungry or angry, your mind affects your connection to the cosmos. And that cosmic connection feeds back into your biology. It's a closed loop.
So ideally, it should be a perfect circle of energy.
Ideally, yes. But the problem, according to our source, is that for most people, the passive nodes, this loop is broken. It's fragmented.
Which is why the text talks about the journey of resuturation.
Resuturation, like stitching up a wound.
That implies we are currently walking around torn open.
That is exactly the implication. In our default state, we are split. Our body wants comfort. Our mind is filled with anxiety.
And we've completely lost touch with that vertical cosmic aspect.
We are leaking energy everywhere. The goal of resuturation is to stitch these fragmented parts back together into a single cohesive unit.
And the text gives us a roadmap for this. It talks about alignment. It lists 3 specific points: the body, the heart, and the crown. But it describes them in a way that feels very tech-heavy. It calls this alignment a vertical data bus.
I love that analogy. If you're a computer person, you know a data bus is what transfers information between components.
Right. It's the highway on the motherboard.
Exactly. So if your vertical data bus is working, information flows seamlessly from the highest level of consciousness, the crown, down through the heart and into the body.
It's instantaneous. No lag.
No lag. You get an intuition, crown, you feel the truth of it, heart, and you act on it, body.
Versus the passive node way, where you get an intuition, your mind doubts it, your heart is afraid, and your body does nothing.
Precisely. That's a broken data bus. When you are resutured, you are a single vertical line of transmission.
Okay, so this brings us to, I think, the most complex piece of terminology in the whole text. I'm going to try to pronounce this correctly.
It's a mouthful.
It is. The specific axis that needs to be restored is called the Randhra Hrdaya Kunda axis.
You got it. That's it.
It sounds like a secret code, but let's demystify it. If I'm the listener sitting in my car right now, where is this axis? What are we physically talking about?
Let's visualize it. Randhra relates to the upper opening, the crown of the head. So imagine a point right at the top of your skull.
Got it.
Hrdaya is the heart center right in the middle of your chest. And Kunda refers to the base, the reservoir of energy at the bottom of the spine.
So head, heart, base. It's a straight line down the center of the body.
Correct. So Randhra Hrdaya Kunda is just the technical Sanskrit name for that head, heart, base line.
And the source is saying that understanding this axis and keeping it aligned is the only way to transition from a battery to an architect.
If this axis is broken, you're food for the siphon. If this axis is restored, you become the ordering principle.
Okay, so we know the anatomy now. We have the triple Alaya loop, we have the vertical axis, but the text doesn't just give us the blueprints, it gives us tools.
Right.
And this is where the text took a turn that I really wasn't expecting. It starts talking about a blue crystal offering and Pasyanti geometry.
This is where we leave the office audit metaphor and get into the more esoteric mechanics.
And then it mentions healing the Nagas of the DNA.
Yeah.
Okay, but hang on. Nagas, I know a little mythology. Nagas are snake beings.
Mm-hmm.
Is this text telling me I have snakes in my DNA? Because that's kind of where I start checking out.
I'm with you. It sounds jarring if you take it literally. But let's look at the Pasyanti geometry part first. In many Eastern traditions, Pasyanti refers to the level of sound or vibration that is just beginning to take form.
Visual sound. Girl.
Right, the visual sound. Think of it like the source code of a video game. When you play a game, you see a character running around.
That's physical reality.
Yes. But underneath that character is a geometric code, a wireframe, that tells the game how to render it. Pasyanti geometry is interacting with that wireframe.
So by using this geometry, you're interacting with the source code of your reality before it fully manifests.
Exactly. Now about the snakes, the Nagas, the double helix of DNA looks like what?
Two intertwined serpents. Like the medical symbol, the caduceus.
Right. So when the text talks about healing the Nagas of your DNA, it's using a very ancient metaphor for a very deep biological repair.
Okay, so it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor implying that the slop of the world, the stress, the bad food, the toxic thoughts, hasn't just messed up your mood, it has corrupted your biological coding.
Like a computer virus that's gotten into the root directory.
That's a great way to put it. So the blue crystal visualization is an antivirus program.
That's it. It's a method of deep internal debugging. You aren't just trying to feel better. You're using this visualization to scrub the corruption out of the very coil of your being.
It's debugging the hardware so the software can run properly.
Okay, that makes it less Harry Potter and more system administrator. I can work with that. So let's say we've done the debugging. Now what?
Now the text introduces the ajna command.
The ajna command. And it's paired with the Brahma decree.
A decree? That sounds authoritative.
Yeah, we aren't asking for permission here. We're not praying for a better day.
No, and that is a crucial distinction. A passive node begs for things to change. I hope traffic is light. I hope my boss isn't mean.
An architect issues a decree. The text says this decree is used to order the cellular and mental kingdom.
I like the idea of viewing your own self as a kingdom. It implies you're the ruler, but also that you have a responsibility.
You can't just let the kingdom run itself into the ground.
Exactly, and that governance is absolute. The Brahma decree is a move of total internal authority. You are telling your cells, your thoughts, your emotions, this is the new order, align or leave.
It's not a negotiation.
Not at all. It is the imposition of the vertical axis onto the chaos of the mind.
It reminds me of when you decide firmly that you are not going to eat sugar for a month. There's a moment where it's not a maybe, it's a law.
Yes. And your body might complain, your mind might make excuses, but the sovereign part of you has spoken. That is the decree.
That sounds incredibly empowering, but also
Yeah.
exhausting. I mean, do you do this once, issue the decree, and then you're done?
You hit save and you're the sovereign forever, I wish.
Yeah.
But the source is very clear on this point, and it's a warning. It says the suture, that stitching together of the self is not a one-time event.
Right. It's a continuous state of being. It's not a diploma you hang on the wall.
No. The text describes a lifestyle of constant calibration. You are constantly under pressure from the global siphon. The slop is always trying to get back in.
So you have to constantly reassert your verticality.
You do.
This brings us to a really beautiful concept the text introduces, which I think is my favorite part of the whole deep dive. Perfuming.
Perfuming. It's such a delicate word for such a powerful practice.
When I first read it, I thought it meant actual scent. But it's more about atmosphere, right?
It is. The text says that every sensory hit, everything you see, hear, taste, or touch, is an opportunity for perfuming.
So walk me through this. How do I perfume a moment?
Okay, imagine walking into a really tense meeting at work. Everyone is stressed, arms crossed, defensive. A passive node walks in and
immediately absorbs that tension. Their stomach tightens, their shoulders go up.
they match the room. You become a chameleon of anxiety.
I have absolutely been that person.
But an architect, they walk in and they perfume the room with their own frequency. They are so aligned in their vertical axis that they project their state outward.
They don't absorb the tension, they overwrite the local atmosphere with their own internal stability.
They are the ones emitting the signal. It connects back to becoming the vortex.
You're spinning the energy out, not sucking it in.
And every interaction you have is part of this. The text mentions the Vajrakula.
The Vajrakula. Okay, Vajra usually means diamond or thunderbolt, something unbreakable. And Kula means family or community.
So the adamantine family. The text says every interaction is a chance to strengthen this structure.
How so?
When you perfume an interaction, say a difficult conversation with your spouse or a moment with your child with your integrity and your vertical alignment, you are building a Vajrakula.
You're building a network of relationships that are solid, unbreakable, and aligned with your frequency.
It's like building a fortress, but you build it through the quality of your presence in every moment. You aren't building walls, you're building trust and stability.
And this leads to perhaps the most important instruction in the entire text regarding the outside world. It says, do not wait for the global siphon to fix itself.
Which is what we all do, right? We wait for the news to get better, for the economy to stabilize.
For the slop to turn into a gourmet meal.
Yeah.
I'll be happy when things calm down.
And the source says, things will never calm down. Chaos is the default setting of the world.
So what's the promise?
The text promises that if you restore the vertical axis within yourself, the egregores around you will have no choice but to align with your frequency.
Egregores. Okay, that's another one. Those are like collective group minds.
Yes. Psychic entities created by the collective thoughts of a group. Corporations have egregores, cities have egregores.
It's the spirit of the team or the vibe of the city, but on steroids.
Exactly. And usually these massive energy structures push us around. You walk into a stadium and you feel the egregore of the crowd take you over.
But the text claims we can push back.
It claims that a fully restored vertical axis of sovereign is more powerful than these collective clouds. If you hold your frequency, the egregores have to bend around you.
That is a massive claim. It flips the power dynamic completely.
It does.
You aren't a victim of the culture. The culture in your immediate vicinity has to reorganize itself because you walked in the room. You are the tuning fork.
It's the ultimate definition of the quality assurance coordinator. You aren't just checking the product, you are setting the standard.
Which brings us to the outro of the source material, the sovereign conclusion. It summarizes this whole identity shift.
Yes, saying we are no longer victims of karma.
Instead, we are the authors of the law.
That's a heavy title.
It is. Authors of the law. It sounds almost dangerous.
It is dangerous to the status quo. It means you are no longer operating under the cause and effect of the external world. You are the cause.
You are generating the law of your own existence.
You aren't asking, why is this happening to me? You are stating, this is how it is going to be.
And the text ends with a Sanskrit affirmation, a mantra to lock this in. Fayam Shivarsma.
Fayam Shivarsma.
Yeah.
The translation provided is, we are the sovereigns.
And notice the plural, we.
Yes. It's not a lonely sovereignty. It's a recognition of a state of being. It's not, I hope to be free. It's a statement of fact.
We are the sovereigns. It just wraps up the entire logic. If you have healed the Nagas of your DNA, restored that axis, and issued the decree, then you are a sovereign.
It's a complete reversal of the passive node we started with. We've gone from a battery being drained by the slop to a conscious architect perfuming reality.
And what I find most compelling is that it frames this not as a retreat from the world. You aren't moving to a cave.
Not at all. You're still going to work. You're still sitting in traffic. But you engage with it differently.
You don't leave the world, you just stop being a victim of it.
You become the ordering principle. You become the vortex.
This has been quite a journey. It's a lot to take in, and some of it requires a real suspension of disbelief, especially the DNA snakes.
But the core message is incredibly practical. Stop reacting, start architecting. And remember the constant calibration, it's a practice, not a destination.
I will slip. You will become a passive node again. The work is to catch yourself and restore the axis.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we want to leave you with a challenge, a little homework for the architects out there. We talk about becoming the quality assurance coordinator of your reality.
We did. And if you take that title seriously, you have work to do immediately.
So here's the question. If you look around your immediate environment right now, your office, your car, your living room, what is the very first thing that fails the audit?
What is the one thing in your space that is slop,
It could be that pile of mail you're avoiding. Maybe it's a grudge you're holding. Maybe it's the news channel playing in the background. What is the thing that drains you and doesn't match the frequency of a sovereign?
Identify it, don't analyze it, just spot it, and then decide. Will you reject it or will you perfume it?
The choice is yours, architect. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Bye, I'm Jitra Small.
See you next time.